Hello everybody, I'm Godot and today we're gonna add money in the shop to a GTA game in Godot. Okay, so start by opening up the player scene on the 2D view. Then the first thing we're going to add is the touch button for the shop. So in the touch controls, right click and make a new control node, call it top left, and the angle will just stay the same like this. Then just take one of the buttons, copy and paste it in the top left like this. And in the transform, just reset the position. And I want to set the position to 20 and 20 on both axes. Then for the texture, go down. And I'm going to use number 33 from the last video, if you remember. Just like that. And for the action, it's going to be shop. Let's also add the actual action. So go to project settings. And in the input map, create a new action. And this is going to be called shop like that. And go down. And for the action, I'm just gonna use the Q button, just like that. Then you can close. Now go up and on the canvas layer, right click and make another control node. And this is going to be the actual shop. Then anchor it to the entire screen. Then right click again and add a new button. This is going to be like some kind of X button. So just put a capital X like this. Then go down to layout and in the transform, set the position to 20 on both axes. Then you can also go and in the theme overrides, go to font sizes and set the font right here to something like 30 like this. And let's also go to the size and set it to 50, just like that. And I just remember that we actually wanted to shop before the touch controls here. So right here, go into the mouse and set it to ignore and that's it. Let's also call it close. Then right click on the shop and make a new scroll container like this. Then go to the anchor and anchor it to the whole center over like this. Then go to the layout and in the transform, I'll just set the size on the X to something like 600. And in the position, you'll need to do it minus 300 like this to center it. Then I'll set the size on the Y to something like 500. And for the Y position, you will need it to be 648, then minus 500, and then divided by 2, and it will be centered like this. Then right click on the scroll container and add a new vertical box container like this, and go here and stretch it over to expand like this, and the vertical alignment to be here. Then right click on it and add a button. For the text, you'll want to actually present the thing that you're selling. This one is going to be some kind of weapon. And this case is going to be the assault rifle, but just with way more bullets. So this is going to be super assault rifle like this. Then dash 500. This is just to tell the player the price. And for the icon, we'll go over to the actual assault rifle and then right click and copy the texture from here. And then in the button, just paste it in the icon like that. And also go into the icon behavior and set the icon alignment to the right so it will look like this. Then let's go down and in the theme overrides, let's set the font size to something bigger like 50. Maybe that's too much. Okay, so 30. Okay, looks pretty good. Maybe 35. Then go over to the text behavior and align it to the left. And in order to make it a bit farther from the left, then just add two spaces at the start. And it should look something like this. But as you can see, the icon is pretty huge. So if you want it like this, then it's fine. But you can also just enable expand icon right here. And then it will be small like the text. And then you can just go down. You can set a custom minimal size in the Y. So let's say 100. And it will scale over like this. I think this looks pretty good. Now that we have our button, we can go over and attach a script to it. Then just right click and attach a script right here. And this is going to be by weapon like this. Then you want to just select everything and use this code instead. This is just a simple line to like some kind of buy function. And what I do here is just get the scene tree and then I search for the player. And on it, I just call this little buy weapon function with the name of the button. So make sure that the name aligns with the name of the weapon that you want to buy. In this case, I'll just duplicate the assault rifle, and this will be without the 2 on the end, and it will be the super assault rifle like this. Then you can just double click and copy the whole name, and then in the button just click on it and set the name to also the name of the weapon, and also make sure to do the same for the weapon icons. So duplicate and give it the proper name. Then in order to connect the button to this buy function, you need to save, and then in the button go to the node and just connect the press signal right here to the button down here, and then pick the buy function and connect. And then you can go back to the 2D view, and if you want, you can just duplicate this button as many times as you want for every single weapon you want, and it will also eventually have this little scroll bar over like this, so you can scroll down to the other weapons if you want. Just make sure to update the name and the price, and also add the new weapon icons and the actual weapon. In this case, I only have one, so it doesn't really matter. Then you can save. And like I said, I want the new assault rifle to be a super assault rifle, so let's go over to it. And in the inspector, I set the max size to be 3000 instead. And we also have a little thing to update in the code, so open it up and go up. And right here, before everything, just duplicate the range once and call it usable, like this, and set it to true. And then duplicate again and call it price, and we'll set it to 500. Then you can just set the usable and the price right here in the inspector of every weapon. In this case, we don't have it in the beginning, so let's disable the usable. And then just go down, and right here in the, before we even call the ready function, just write if not usable, then set the process mode to process mode dot disable, and then go down and just return like this. Then you can save it. And let's also update the player so we can actually get it from the weapon button right here. So go into the player, and right there in the node, go over to the groups and just press right here and just call this player and make it global. And now whenever we call the scene tree and get this little player group, then we can actually access the player from everywhere we want. Then open up the UI script, then duplicate the reload button and call it shop. Then delete the original reference and just reference the shop control node from here. Then down here, we'll paste this little code. Now we have two new functions. The first one is this little buy weapon function with the weapon name and the count. This we will just call it from the player, and we'll actually just tell the shop to essentially find the correct button from here and then hide it so we can buy the same weapon twice. And then it will also correct the order of the weapon icons right here. Make sure that the reference is correct and is aligned with this little node right here. You see this one? Then we have this little toggle shop function. And what I do here is just if the shop is visible, then we hide the shop and set the time to 1. This will just make the time be normal and not frozen. And also capture the mouse so we can't see it anymore. And if we don't see the shop, then here we actually open it up. So we make the mouse visible. Then we freeze the time and we actually show the shop. Then in order to connect the close button to this function, we'll need to save. And then on the close button, go into the node and in the signals, just connect the press signal right here. Go down and in the canvas layer, just pick the shop toggle like this. Then there is one more thing we need to add in the shop. Go over to the canvas layer, right click and add a new label. This is going to be called money. And then in the 2D view, just go over and anchor it to the top center like this. Then in the inspector, go over and just set the text to be like money, like this, 100 or whatever. Then set the horizontal alignment to the center. And in the label settings, create a new one. And down in the font, set the font size to be something like 30. Then let's also go down and in the layout, let's set the transform in the position in the Y to be something like 20 also. And then in the UI script, go up and duplicate the shop and call this money, and then correct the reference to be this one. And now we are done with the UI code. Now go over to the player and then go up, and right here next to all of the variables, just go and create a new variable and call it money like this. Then let's just correct one single thing from the last video. Let's just go here and set it to mouse motion, but instead let's just add and not touch, just like that, and add the brackets. This is so we don't have to change this part. Then under the ready function, go down and let's add this little add money function. It just takes this little amount and then adds it to the money, and then also updates the text from the UI to be the actual amount of money that we have. Let's also make sure that we call this function at the start. So go here and under the switch weapon function, just call this little add money function with 0 because we don't actually want to give the player any money at the start. Then we need to update the weapon code a little bit. So go here and add this little line. What it does is just instead of right here, as you can see at the start, I set the weapon count to be the amount of children inside of the weapon holder. And instead we just want to set it to 0 because now we also have unusable weapons that are also under it. So what we do is that as long as we are not counting the punch and the knife, which will always be usable, then if the weapon is usable, then we increase the weapon count. So it will start at 0, and then right here, it will count the punch and the knife. And as you can see, the first assault rifle is usable, so it will add it too. But the super assault rifle won't be added just like that. Then we'll need to go down to the process function and add this little part of code to actually call the toggle shop function when we press the shop button. Then below the switch weapon function, we'll add this little buy weapon function, which will just take the name of the weapon. We get the name of the weapon right here from the buy weapon code on the buy weapon button right here. This is why we needed to access the player. Then if we can actually find it inside of the weapon holder, so we are not just trying to get some random weapon that doesn't exist. And we also have the amount of money that we need for it that is bigger than the price. If we don't, then we just don't do anything. And then if we do, then we just add the amount of money which is minus the amount of the price. It will work, it will just decrease the amount of money by the price. You don't need a separate function to decrease the money. Then we call the buy weapon function on the UI, as you can see right here. It's this function that we added. And then we update the order of the weapons. So let's say that we have 10 weapons and we buy weapon 8, but we only have up to weapon 4. Then it will make it be on weapon 5 and not at weapon 8. So we can just straight up scroll over to it without going between a bunch of weapons that we don't have yet. And then also increase the weapon count. And now for the last part, we'll need to go over to the NPC, and in the code right here, go over and just add these two lines at the top. It's just to export variables as int types for the minimum amount of money and the maximum amount of money that the NPC can have. You can also see it right here. Then we'll need to go down to where we kill the actual NPC. And then right here, before we call the timer, just go over and add this little line. It's exactly the same as the line over in the buy weapon button right here. I just take the player and then call some kind of function for it. In this case, I just call the add money function with a random integer between the minimum amount of money and the maximum amount like this. So it's pretty simple. Then you can just save everything. And just before we run the game, I forgot just one thing in the UI. Right here, go over and paste this little code. Now we can go over and run the game. And as you can see, now we have this little money part and this little button to open up the shop. And if we click on it, then you can see we have the shop over here, and we can also close it. In this case, I'm on a PC, so I can also just use the Q button like this over there. But as you can see, it also just hid my mouse. So let's go over and just use the normal buttons. So right over here, let's get back to the PC controls, but it will also work for the mobile. So I'll just add the new event in the attack function for the left mouse button. And down here in the pointing, we'll need to set the to mouse and mouse to touch. And in the player, let's just get this line, and instead of toggling it every time, let's just go over and do if not touch, then it will actually capture the mouse. I just realized that I also forgot that in the gun, we need to go down, and before we disable the process mode, we'll also need to hide the gun. And another thing I forgot to add is right here in the player, go over to the input function, and just right here, go down, and just write if UI dot shop dot visible. Then we return because we don't want to accept input while the shop is open. And also delete this little return part because we are already just disabling the process mode. Now we can finally save and run the game. And as you can see, we have the money up there, and we can also open the shop, and we have the weapon over there with the price, and we can currently buy it. And then we can just close, and the mouse will disappear again, and we can go around. And if we go ahead and kill this guy, then we'll get a random amount of money. As you can see up there, we got 71. And if we kill this guy, then we'll get another amount. And now let's just go over around the city and kill a bunch of people until we get to 500. And now that I finally got to 500, we can go over and open the shop and just buy the weapon. And as you can see, it disappeared and the money got down. And now if we get back into the game, we can go up and use the super weapon. And as you can see, we have 3000 bullets like this. And now if we go around and shoot, we have way too many bullets. And that's it for today. The next part should release tomorrow, and it's going to be about the sound and a save system, and it will probably be the last one. So I hope you like this video, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!